Hey guys, so today I'm going to show you my way of mixing paint colors for acrylic pours. Some of you have asked how I get the colors that I use, and this is going to be it. It's really random. As I said before, I just kind of gather up all my colors and mica powders and start mixing them together to get what I'm looking for. I'm going to show you a few tips here and there of how I mix in the micas and heavy body acrylics with regular acrylics and all the little tips and things that I have that I use during my mixing. It is a long video and I apologize. I did try to trim it down. I skipped over some stuff that I wanted to show you but didn't get a chance to put it in there. But I think there's still quite a bit of good information for you if you're interested in the way that I'm doing all this. So next time I am going to be using some interference paints. I'm going to show you different ways of mixing those on their own, and whenever you mix them into paints, how that interacts with each other. As we spoke about before, mixing with interference and mica powders is on a different length, well, not a different length, but a different method. It uses additive theory, whereas mixing pigments and paints, they use subtractive theory. So it's a little bit different, but it's actually very cool in the way that it really works whenever you put it to paper or canvas. But anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Already long video, so I'm gonna get out of your face and show you what I do. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you after this. Alright guys, so let's get started. I want to make a purple color that has some gold mica in it. I really enjoy using a purple gold mix. It gives me some pretty good results. So I've never mixed these two colors to get purple before, but it was in one of the recommendations that I read. So I decided I'd give it a shot and see where we get with these, and we'll add colors as we see fit. To get started with, though, I've got my cup. So since these are a little on the thicker side for now, to mix them a little easier, I'm going to add just a little bit of polyacrylic. That's a little much. Just a tiny bit. Just to get us some kind of liquid to get mixing in. You don't have to do this step, especially if you know the colors that you're already mixing. It just makes it a little easier. And you're especially going to use this when you start mixing your micas. But anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. So I've got the alizarin crimson hue, which is 2 different pigments of red, and then I have ultramarine blue, which is blue 29. So we know that this is a hue, so it's going to have 2 different mixtures instead of just a pure mixture. We'll see how that affects anything. I kind of want this to be a deep purple, but we'll see what we get with just mixing these. So to start out, I'm just going to add about that much, just to start. And we'll add maybe about half of that in blue. And we'll start mixing and see where we get. And I do have a sheet of paper handy to kind of give y'all an idea of what these colors actually end up being. If you're mixing in paint cups like this, just make sure that you're scraping along the sides and getting all those pigments mixed in together. Some pretty satisfied with this thus far. That's a pretty nice little purple there. Okay. So we've got that pretty well put together now. Mix that part back in, and let's just take this sheet of paper and see what it looks like. All right. We're using two semi-transparent colors, or semi-opaque, so it's not going to have quite the hiding power as an opaque paint. All right, so this is the color we get when we add twice as much crimson hue as we do the ultramarine blue. I kind of want this to be a little more towards the pink side of things. So what I believe I'm going to add, now let's add some of this quinacridone rose. It's on the violet end of the spectrum. It's PV19, but I'm going to add just a small drop in there. Not even, maybe even a fourth of what we added in the blue. All right. Now, hopefully you guys will be able to kind of see the difference here. It warmed it up a little bit. So here's our original mix of just the crimson and ultramarine. And this is where we've added the quinacridone rose. So hopefully you'll kind of be able to tell there's a slight difference in between the colors. This is going to be more cool because of the more blue color in it. And this one's getting a little warmer as we add in the violet. I actually really like where this one is standing. So what I'm going to do in this case is add just a little more of the polyacrylic. And let's see, let's go with Knox Gold. It's a brighter gold. From there, I like a lot of mica in my paints. So while that looks like a lot, that's about on par what I would usually use, maybe even slightly more depending on how reflective I want the paint to be. So I'm going to add that right there on top of my polyacrylic. That'll give me some liquid to work with to get it mixed together. Now, guys, mica pigments are very, very fine and they get thrown up into the air very easily. It's recommended that when you're working with powdered pigments that you wear some kind of face mask so you're not breathing in all these particles. I don't always do. I probably should, but I don't always. But I recommend that you do. Just save your lungs. All right. So let's get this mixed in. Make sure it's not lumpy or anything. Now, if you see that there's some that's not getting completely mixed in, you don't have to worry about it too much until you start adding your base, and then you want to make sure that everything is together. So this is what we've got so far with it. Let's look at it together. That's what we end up with. All right, now I am going to add in my paint base. Let's see, today I'm using Valspar Reserve in Semi-Gloss Base C, along with the polyacrylic. It's, excuse me, I'm so sorry. I've got 2 parts of the poly to 1 part, 2 parts of the base to 1 part polyacrylic. So to mix this up, I have 6 ounces of the base C and 2 ounces of the poly. From there, I just pour it in there to my paint and start mixing. And there we have a custom mixed purple and gold. So as you can see, we've got everything really mixed in. Everything flows together. Kind of thick, it mounds on top of it, each other. So mounds, and they kind of disappear. That's about how thick I like my bloom paints to be in general. Sometimes I can stand them being a little thicker, but not much thinner than what this is. I think they spread apart too much if you get them too thin, so I like to have them on the thicker side. All right, so let's see. Scraped it, now we gotta mix it again. Okay, so that is our first custom color. Now, I recommend writing what colors you mix together on your cap. It makes it easier when you go to try to recreate these colors. If you want to get real specific, you can write your ratios down and keep up with that. I mix so many colors that I don't, most of the time I don't bother with that because I am okay with ever-changing colors. If you are wanting to mix your own custom colors and want to make sure that you can mix that exact same color again, make sure you write down your ratios because you will forget. All right, so we got those. We'll work on a couple more colors. I'm just gonna go through and start mixing some colors and we'll go from there. Okay, so how about with heavy body colors and different viscosities of paints? Heavy bodies, I am always going to thin out a little bit with the polyacrylic to make it more manageable. So that's what I'm going to start out with here. I want to go ahead and give myself a little bit of this poly. That's too much. About like that. There we go. I'm using Endothrine Blue. It is, let's see, this one will be PB60. I'm trying to make like a blue-green tint, and I kind of want it to have some bronze mica in it to give it a brown tint as well. So first I'm just mixing in this heavy body to make it thinner and not clumpy. Heavy bodies tend to clump up a lot if you just start plainly mixing them. Since they're so much thicker, they're just harder to mix unless you've got them pretty thinned out to begin with. Okay, so I added quite a bit of blue to that. That was actually a little bit more than I was wanting, but we're going to run with it anyways. All right, so I've got that thinned out. I'm going to start adding my phthalo green. This is Viridian Phthalo PG7. So again, this is one pigment. I'm going to add a bit of green in there. Now, just remember, if you get your colors too thick, you can always add a little bit more polyacrylic to thin them back out. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more poly just to get it all mixed together pretty well. And if you're ever in a case where you feel like you've mixed up too much paint to go ahead and add your base, you can always split it off into a different cup and build off of that for a new color. So that's probably what I'm going to do a little bit here. I've got more pigment in this cup than I actually really need. It's a beautiful color though. I'm actually really happy with that. Let's see. So let's just kind of see what it's going to look like to begin with. Ooh, probably don't need that much on there. Okay, so, oh, that's like a gorgeous blue-green color. All right, so I really like this color, but what I want to do is mix it into two separate cups. I'm going to put part of it in this cup and add this blue-green iridescence, and then in the other cup I'm going to add the copper color. So about half and half, really. About like that. Okay, so in this cup I'm going to add that, in this cup I'm going to add this. A little bit of that. And this is antique bronze. It's Pearl-X powder. Again, I'm going to add just a little bit of that. Give it something to work with. And since this is thick, I'm going to add just a little bit to it too. Now see how right here it's gotten still kind of clumpy, so that's what you're trying to avoid. You want to make sure all those little particles get mixed up really well. And even though they're fine, they do tend to clump up sometimes. So just make sure that you're really stirring. Swipe your stick and make sure you're getting all of it off of there so you can completely mix it together. All right, wow. Okay, that is pretty gorgeous. Okay, let's get this other one mixed up. All right, So we've got those two. I just kind of want to compare the difference now that we've got the two different micas mixed in. Okay, you can see that the dark mica, of course, kind of darkened it up a little bit. Kind of seems more brown depending on the light that you're looking at it in. Of course, this one's going to have just a light blue green tinge to it. Anyways, so you can see the difference in taking the same same color and mixing in different micas is going to make a huge difference in the color that you end up with. So mica powders do have some tinting power to them, but they're mostly working off of how refractive the light is. So that's going to give you some differences in your colors as well. All right, I'm going to mix in the base and we'll move on to another color. All right, so sometimes I have a mica pigment in mind that I want to use, but I'm not real sure where I want to go with it color-wise. So I always start out mixing my mica in place first and then go from there, because sometimes the mica powder is going to look slightly different in powder form as it is opposed to a fluid form. So this is what we've got looking like just plain. And I'm going to mix it in here and see what it looks like. Looks like there's some blues and golds in it, so we'll see how they turn out. It's almost a gray blue is what I would call it. Now, if you wanted to work with this mica powder just as a pigment, after you get it all thinned out and get all the clumps out, just add in your gel medium and mix it into your base. Again, the only reason I say gel medium is because it gives it so much more body and it'll give you a thicker paint. You can use other mediums if you would prefer. That is just my go-to for this method. Okay, so I've got that pretty mixed in at this point. Now let's look at it a little closer. So I'm seeing some kind of coppery gold in it. There's, of course, the blue color, which is more of a, I don't know, blue-violet, if I had to guess. So what I think we should try mixing in first. Let's actually go with what am I looking for? Not manganese. Actually, let's do some of this cobalt turquoise. Now, this is another fluid paint, so I'll probably end up adding a little bit of medium to it in the long run anyways. So let's start out with a couple of drops first. Let's see where it goes. That kind of gave it a slightly more green tinge. Another couple of drops. All right, I see where we're going here. It's actually very similar to the greens that we mixed up earlier. So I'm going to stop there. And I'm going to add a little bit more of the blue colors instead. So let's see. Where is the one that I'm looking for? Okay, a little bit of ultramarine to start out with. Drop or two of those. And that's going to add a little bit more of that blue color back. Okay. Another drop. All right. Changing ever so slightly with each new drop. So this is what we've got at this point. And to take it to the next step, let's do so many choices. Let's do, you know, I think I'm actually going to add a little bit of a purple to it just to see where it goes. Is this what I'm looking for? Yeah, quinacridone violet. I'm going to add a couple of drops of it. Okay, I think I'm going to add one more drop, and I think that's where I want it. Okay. Started out not knowing exactly what color I was going for, so that's led to a lot of mixing. But since what we used were pure pigments, it wasn't as big of a deal. So I used, where'd it go? Aha, okay. So cobalt turquoise, ultramarine blue, and quinacridone violet. So this is, let's see, blue 36, blue 29, and violet 19. So they're all singular pigments, but they mix in together to make this beautiful color. I'm going to add a little bit of the gel medium in here and get it thickened up. Then we'll add the base. It's about time for me to get more gel medium. I am running extremely low. All right. I've got this mixed up together. And that's a lot thicker. It's a little bit thicker than craft paint, not quite as thick as like student body paints, but that little bit of thickness is just going to be what helps me make my final paint the consistency that I want. All right, there's our base, and mix, mix, mix. Now, when you're mixing in these cups, a lot of the stuff likes to get into the bottom part in the little grooves and cracks and stuff, so make sure that you're stirring those as well. It can be a little annoying to get it out of all these grooves, so you may feel like mixing your paint in something else and then transferring it to your storage cup, but I am lazy, so I don't like that much cleanup, so I just make do with what I've got. So, this is mixed enough to show you guys what we ended up with. Alright, that's what I've got. So I'm going to finish mixing this the rest of the way, and looks like we've kind of got enough base for at least 2 more colors, so stay tuned and we'll get on to the next one. Alright, so I want to make another kind of pinky purple. I like using pinks and purples a lot in my pours, so I have quite a few mixes of those, but it can never hurt to have more. So I've got 2 different pigment colors. They're kind of both on the pink purple spectrum. I'm gonna mix those in and see how they look. And we'll pick our colors from there. Just like in our last mixture, we're mixing our micas first. Now you can also feel free to add any glitter or anything that you want at this stage as well. I don't typically use glitter in most of my pours. Some of my fluorescent and glow-in-the-dark ones I have simply because I had glow-in-the-dark glitter. But for the most part, I only use mica powders. But feel free to add any glitter or any other kind of little thing that you want to add at this point too. That kind of reminds me of the orchid color from Deco Art, the Orchid Flash. Okay, so I think we should start out. Let's go with some mauve. So this mauve is going to be a red and violet mixture. So we have to keep that in mind, that we are using 2 different colors. Let's try mixing in just the mauve first and see where it goes. It's a pretty nice deep purple. All right, I really like that. I'm not real sure if we should go any further because that is pretty gorgeous. Let's see. Oh, just for the fun of it, actually, not that. I'm gonna add a little bit of this entherdine. Now, typically, since this is heavy body, I would mix it first, but I'm literally just going to add a tiny touch. All right. Well, that didn't go in there like I had quite hoped. Got it up a little too high. I swear I'm usually not this clumsy mixing paint. Okay, so I think I do want to add a little bit of the quinacridone. And I'm just making sure that I get all this mixed in as well as possible before I add my base. All right, so this is what we end up with. I think that's pretty stunning. Now, let's look at it in comparison to our other ones. And there is a very clear difference. All right, I am very happy with that, so I'm going to mix in the base. Get it mixed together, and we'll go to our next color. Alright, so I'm going to work on another green mixture. Not real sure where exactly these colors are going to go, but looking at this cobalt green deep hue, it is a white 6, yellow 3, and blue 15-3. So I have P3, P yellow 3, the P blue 15-3, and then I also have this iridescent blue black, which I have absolutely fallen in love with in general, so I wanted to see what else I could do with it. Not real sure if we'll add any more mica powders or not. We'll just have to see where it goes. So again, I like to add a little bit of that just to get things going. I'm going to use about let's go towards the more blue spectrum of green. That, and like double the yellow. Now again, you'll see I've got quite a bit of paint in here now, so I'll probably end up splitting this one in apart and making two different colors out of it. So we've got kind of a emerald green, I guess. That's what you could call that. I'm not sure. But I'm going to split it into 2 cups. Let's see. All right. So I'm going to set that one to the side. And I think I'm going to go for it and go ahead and just add this blue-black and see what it does. So this is what we've got. Let's see. All right. So it kind of just toned it down, but when the light hits it in certain ways, it does have kind of a silver tone to it. I don't know how well you guys are going to actually be able to see it yet. Maybe when it dries, it'll be a little bit more visible to you guys. Okay, I think we need to add a little bit more to it though. I'm not quite where I don't want it. Let's see. What can we add to this? Maybe we need to add slightly more blue. But again, we're getting pretty heavy on our paint here. So what I'm going to do, split again like that. This one I'm going to leave as is. And this one I am going to add another blue to. Let's add some of this manganese. Now we're mixing a lot of colors at this point, so we're risking it getting muddy, but you're never really going to know what it looks like unless you try it out. So be adventurous in your paint mixing. You never know when it'll come out absolutely gorgeous or kind of a flop. It's not getting much different yet. Not as different as I want it to be. So I'm gonna keep adding a little bit more. Now let's look at the difference between that and that. This one's a little bit more cooled down from our original mix because of all the blue that we've added. Okay. To this first one that we mixed up before we put in the blue black, I'm actually going to add some of this green gold to it. Now, that is a heavy body paint, so I'm adding some more of the polyacrylic. To this, I am also going to add some gold interference powder. All right. Now that we have that mixed together, let's see what it looks like next to the other two. All right. So now we have 3 different versions of green using the same 2 base colors. We just kind of added on from what we had. As you can see, you can have lots of different combinations to make lots of different colors. Let's go ahead and put our base into these and get them mixed up. I think this is probably going to be all of my base that I have mixed up for today. Yeah, perfect. All right. And I'm going to get these mixed up and I'll be back with you soon. All right, guys, I know that was a lot, so if you have any questions, just let me know below. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a little bit of something. I'll see you next week when we work with the interference paints. Bye.